It takes an extraordinary leader to run a big news business with ever-changing technology and a public that wants news now, that they can trust. Our next presenter does it very well. Welcome, the president of Republic Media, an Integrity Summit founding supporter, and first-time presenter, Mi-Ai Parrish.
So I don't have any slides because breaking news scrapped my original idea and I'm kind of just going with it. So, you know, hang with me. I'm going to start by introducing you to three men in my life. In fact, it's really two men and a boy. The first of them is my grandfather. He was a pastor and he was an early convert to Christianity in a nation that didn't have Christianity. He was tortured and imprisoned for his belief in Christ. He was told that if he did not renounce Jesus, he would be killed. He was in prison with his best friend, who was also a pastor and was an early convert as well. And his best friend was, in fact, tortured to death in that Japanese prison. They only released my grandfather because they feared that he would also become a martyr. He lived with integrity and he would have died for it. The second is Joby Couch. He was an Army cultural attaché in Korea during World War II or after World War II. His family served in every war, beginning with the American Revolution, except for the Civil War. As Southerners who objected to slavery, they hid in the caves and hid away in sort of a cold mountain story, refusing to serve for the plantation owners. Joby Couch is someone we know of as Uncle Joby. He became very good friends with my grandfather after World War II. And he invited my mother and her sisters to come to America to have scholarships at Christian universities and at the University of Alabama after World War II and after the Korean War. He invited them into his home and into his life, and he's somebody that became our family, and we're family to this day. He lived with integrity, and he taught me that, thank you, because I can't, because I'm really short. He taught me, and he taught all of us, that one man can make a difference. And today there are dentists and lawyers and teachers and engineers, doctors, and a publisher who were educated in the United States, who became citizens, and who are here because of him. The third is my nephew, Thomas. He's 7. And this past summer, I sent him to Star Wars Lego camp because he's 7 and he loves Star Wars and he loves Legos. So I was really excited to hear how he liked it. And he said, you know, it was okay. It's all right. I'm thinking, you're 7 years old and it's Legos, Star Wars. And he's like, you know, Star Wars Lego camp is kind of like Russia. Really. He's like, yeah, you know, those counselors, they're really like Putin. I was like, really, Thomas? They're like Putin? He's like, yeah, you know, they're just running all over the place. And the thing is, freedom is messy. Anti-Mia freedom is messy. And the last couple of weeks, I've thought a lot about my grandfather and Uncle Joby and Thomas, and how the first two of them have lived and died with integrity, and my nephew, I hope, will grow up with integrity, and that there is wisdom in it, because lately democracy's been messy. And while this is about integrity and this is not about politics, I just thought I'd share a story about how we have lived with integrity the last couple of weeks. Some of you may know that the Arizona Republic Editorial Board decided to endorse a Democrat for president for the first time in 126 years. It was almost a year in the making. We had telegraphed for, well, it's been almost a year. We've been editorializing about our concerns around Donald Trump. We editorialized very strongly against the policies and actions that he had undertaken, and with concerns both for Arizona and for the nation and for us as a global leader. So it wasn't really a surprise that we were kind of stuck at the end of the day when he was the nominee. We knew he probably was going to win Arizona. He obviously won the presidential preference. And our choice at the time I guess we had three choices. One was to not endorse. One was to endorse somebody besides the two leading candidates. And the third was to endorse and stand up and say, you know, we're a Republican paper. We were founded as the Arizona Republican. We had never endorsed a Democrat. We researched it. We knew we would take a lot of heat for doing that, and I know there are people in this room who don't agree with us, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, we also thought, what are our principles? What do we stand for? And we're a mission-driven business. And we said our mission is to enlighten and to empower and to engage and to educate. And we believe in the power of democracy, and we believe in the power of freedom of speech, and we believe in the power of debate, and we want people to vote. And the people in this room and the people in this country didn't have a choice, and we didn't want to sit down. So we knew there would be consequences when we sat down and talked through that, and they'll sit with me. The consequences have been very, very interesting. I knew people would cancel their subscriptions. I knew people would send me nasty emails. Thank you for those. They've been really lovely. I could share some of them with you. I knew that it could imperil our business, and in fact, advertisers have pulled their advertising. They've called and said, we don't want to do business with you because we support Donald Trump, and we don't support you because of your endorsement. What I wasn't really, I guess I was prepared for, but I wasn't prepared for the intensity of it, were the threats against the people who are just doing their job every darn day, making a difference every single day. There have been many death threats, and they have been specific, and they have been vile. And the worst of them, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Don Bowles. He was our investigative reporter. And 40 years ago, this past spring, he was assassinated in a car bomb. He was investigating, we think, the mafia, and it's never really come to pass what happened. But he died over the course of 12 days in the hospital, and he lives with us still. He has pictures on the wall. His widow visited us for the anniversary. We named a scholarship in his honor this past year with ASU. Someone called that first day when we endorsed Hillary Clinton and said to the young woman who answered the phone, "You sound like you're too young to know Don Bowles." And she was going to say, no, he has pictures on the wall, and we just set up this scholarship in his name, and I just met his widow. And before she could say that, he said, because of what you've done, more of your reporters are going to be blown up in car bombs. And I just hung up the phone. So Kim Marie, who answered the phone, she was very shaken. And she reported that to us. And to me, she's this 31-year-old young woman answering the phones. She walked across the street to the church, and she sat and she prayed for him. She prayed for forgiveness and for compassion and for understanding and for patience. And then she came back and she kept answering those phones. Our door crews, these are kids who go door to door. Most of them are college students. More than half of them are Hispanic. In the wake of our endorsement, they have been knocking on doors, and they've been spit on, and they've been threatened with weapons. They've been called vile names. They're just going door to door selling subscriptions. In the kiosks where we have, in grocery stores, where we sell subscriptions, we've had people threaten our potential subscribers with guns. And like I said, we've had many, many people call and ask that I be hanged, that I be blown up. They've published my address and that of the editor and the editorial page editor, and have pointed out that they know they have children. So what I wasn't really prepared for, I guess, was that those words have so much power, that people can be so angry, and people can be so, let's just go with angry. Let's go with angry. That disagreements become something that you want to threaten violence over, even to Kim Marie answering the phone and Jose knocking on the door. So what I learned from all of this is that sometimes living with integrity is messy, like my nephew says, and sometimes it can be costly, like it has been for me in the last couple of weeks. and it can be unpopular. And like my grandfather and Uncle Joby taught me, it can also be dangerous. And at the end of the day, I ask myself and I ask you, what are your guiding principles? And what decision will you make when integrity is on the line and there are real consequences? I always say that when I have this kind of a decision, sometimes it's about job losses or mergers or new technologies or all the things that all of us face every day. And sometimes it's, well, maybe the rest of you don't have an editorial endorsement when you're asking yourself this question, but is it a decision that I can explain to my mother? You know, is my 84-year-old mother going to be okay with it when I look her in the eye? And am I going to be okay with the decision that I made for myself, for the people I'm responsible for the business that I run, for the community that I serve? My mother grew up under a dictatorship. She had no right to an education. She had no right to vote. She had no free press. She had no freedom of religion. She taught me to never take any of those things I am blessed with for granted. So I thought I would share today with you my guiding principle, which is 45 words. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So I ask you, what decision will you make when integrity is on the line and when there are consequences for what you do? My grandfather and Uncle Joby are long gone now, but their lessons live on with me, and I wanted to thank you for all of you for leading with integrity.